Hi, friends. I am sitting today virtually with Arinola Olowoporoku, who is going to be talking about a really cool festival that happens in Toronto, Canada, called KUUMBA. Nice to meet you, Arinola.
Hi, nice to meet you, Heidi. Thank you for having me. My name is Arinola, and I'm an associate producer in cultural engagement at Harbourfront Centre, and I'm the lead producer and the curator for KUUMBA 2024.
Excellent. So maybe before we get into the festival itself, what is sort of what was your array or what pushed you into kind of working behind the scenes when it comes to arts and curating festivals?
I think for the most part, it started like after like my master's program, and I was thinking of how I guess fit in the creative world without necessarily being a traditional artist myself. And I write and I majored in branding. And so I started from Lagos, and I used to work in multiple arts organizations in Lagos, producing exhibitions, curating festivals and things like that. So really, I think I don't even know. I want to say I accidentally stumbled in it, but of course, like it really is a match made in heaven, and all my skills are really like perfect for this role. And I enjoy, being in service to artists and creative arts.
That's so cool. I always ask these questions because it's always interesting how people end up in a particular place in their professional trajectory. There's always something about the arts that kind of draws all of us in somewhere, right?
Yes, thanks, Heidi. That was a great question.
Um, Great. So tell me about Kuumba. How long have you been working on this particular festival and sort of what can we say about the festival to entice folks to attend? I've been in the past and I always find it fun, but I want to kind of hear from your experience.
Okay. I've been working on Kumba for a year, and pretty much like exactly when I joined Harbourfront Centre, so like January 2023. Kumba this year is inspired by voice. So our theme is voice, and it's about Black voice, Black creativity, and just in the ways we're examining. The point of the entire point of the festival is to examine the ways in which we speak, who we speak to, and the different ways in which the functions of our voice and how we use our voice has changed and have increasingly become impactful. Of course, like with the advent of like technology, social media, and us being, I guess, more engaged, but also less engaged.
Mhm. And I'm seeing that the lineup is quite diverse too in terms of your guests. I'm gonna throw some names out. I'm seeing Angie Thomas, Dwayne Morgan, Julie Black, whom a lot of us know here in Toronto, and Marie Woods. So how did you and the planning committee sort of think of possible guests and sort of the lineup throughout the day?
So for us, in terms of curating the festival, we start from our programming idea and our curatorial theme, which was voice. And really, the entire festival was inspired by a quote from Angie Thomas, who is our flagship event. And she's the keynote speaker kicking off our first event called Find Your Voice. And Angie Thomas is a New York Times best-selling author. She's a speaker, she's an activist, and she has had many different phases in her career where she tries out things and moves forward or like progresses into other things. She has a part in her career where she was a rapper as well, and so we find her just inspirational for young voices and the next and to basically just like pioneer like the next generation of cultural change makers. And that's Angie Thomas. And like you said, there's a slew of events catering to different demographic and people with different interests.
Mhm.
Julie Black, Tiffany Sutton, Aaron Jones. These are visual artists. We have breaking competitions, and the list goes on. But like you said, again, we have something to cater to every single person, regardless of demographic.
Mhm. And let's talk about accessibility as well. I mean, I'm looking at the array of events. There's workshops, there's spoken word. Some of them have sold out, by the way, in terms of some of the events. There's film screenings, and like you mentioned, there's a keynote. So how do festival programmers like yourself and the team think of making it accessible? Because there's some ticketed events, of course, but making sure that the audience that you want to reach actually makes it out.
Yes. Thank you for the question. So for us, because Harbourfront Centre is 10-acre site and we have multiple different types of venues, catering, and having multiple accessibility points, we look at the overview of the program and see where we can offer accessibilities. And for instance, our film screenings, most of them are subtitled. We also sometimes ask patrons to indicate what specific accessibility options they would like provided. And in general, Harbourfront Centre were very dedicated and focused on um, public programming, accessible public programming. And that's why you'll never see any festival here where all the events are ticketed. For
Right.
this KUUMBA specifically, all our workshop sessions are dropping. We only have 3 ticketed events. We also have a format called Pay What You Wish, where we have $0 options, $5 options, 10, and multiple like that. Yeah, so we try our best to make sure that even when people cannot attend certain programs for specific reasons, there are options open to them. We also have weekend programs. We have a few weekday programs, again, just to spread it out and give everyone time to enjoy what we our offerings.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I often sort of try to get people to come out as well because I know we all have different size pockets, but the idea is that you're still able to enjoy the arts at your comfort level. And I think that is the one cool thing that I've always appreciated about Harbourfront Center in general, that the year programming is accessible in different ways for different people. And it's also near the lake, and even though it's winter, it's still fun to get out there and explore.
Exactly. Yeah, and as luck will have it, it's not as cold as it could be, so best to take advantage of, the weather.
That is so true. I am obviously a film nerd, so I always look at the film screenings. There's some really cool ones like Chevalier, The Hate You Give, and some other ones. Do you do you have any kind of favorite? I know it's a tough question, but any favorite sort of events that you want to make sure that they get highlighted and that people should look out for?
Yes, absolutely. Again, lots of events, and of course, like it's my programming, so like most of the events I love, and I would encourage everyone to go to the Harbourfront Center website of www.harbourfrontcenter.com. Click on KUUMBA, and you'll see all the events we have, all the multiple offerings. But specifically, the events I would like to highlight are. Um, the visual arts exhibition. It features Tiffany Sutton and Aaron Jones. Fantastic. They're both lens-based artists in conversation. I think it's going to be quite interesting. They also have an artist talk this weekend on Saturday. Everybody is welcome to join that. Atypical programming for us is breaking. So this is not something that we typically do. So this breaking competition is a full day's event, and it's very interesting to just examine how the dance has now evolved into a global sport. They're going to be represented at the Olympics this year, which is definitely not a small feat. So we just wanted to spotlight that particular endeavor in that it's very grassroots, very urban grown, So just to see how that has evolved over the years. So we're going to also be adding additional context in that we have film screenings dedicated to the evolution of breaking, us screening documentaries and films from different regions, just so again, different parts of like the world are saying their perspective on how they feel like breaking evolved within their community. And another and also we're having workshops. So for pretty much like every programming we do, we create workshops because Harbourfront Center is not just a recreational center or a cultural institution. We're also an educational institution, and so we try to provide some sort of opportunity or avenue for people who are not familiar with whatever programming or whatever medium of creative arts, who want to get into it, who are curious, who want to learn about it. And so we create these workshops. So this weekend, we also have breaking workshop, we have a DJ workshop, and all month long, we have multiple workshops as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the workshops because they always look really fun to me. And I think that you mentioned as well that they're drop-in. So, if you're going to spend the day or come multiple times, you can always kind of sample different things. And you never know. There may be some budding DJs in the audience.
Exactly. Exactly. You never know.
So, I'm curious more about, like, as you mentioned, you help program this year. What's that relationship building like for you and the artists, and sort of trying to make sure that one, it works with their schedule, and two, um, I'm guessing you're collaborating on the ideas of what they're going to present.
So, for the artists, I think it's really like the heart of what we do, communicating with artists in programming a festival. You might liaise with over 200 artists, depending on how long the festival is, and just trying to find, first of all, of course, it has to be mutually beneficial. Seeing like the projects the artists are working on right now, what they're trying to say was more pressing to them, and just seeing how we can fit that into our programming ideas. And of course, a lot of times it's very collaborative. It's never anybody's way or the highway. Again, the artist definitely appreciates just an administrative approach and effort and steering, guiding, directing, of course, because for the most part they work alone and have like full autonomy. So just having this external perspective kind of, contextualize how someone who is outside of you sees your work and interprets your work. It's a very I don't know. Like I think it's a very complex, intimate, delicate balance and relationship.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And I asked that question as well because, for artists that may tune in or eventually stumble upon this conversation, even if it's after the fact, it's always good to consider what the options are in sort of reaching different audiences, right? Um,
Yes,
and as you mentioned this day, there's technology, there's different ways in which artists are communicating with us as well.
exactly, exactly.
And so remind us, how long does the festival run for? I know there's stuff happening this weekend in the first weekend in February.
Okay, so the festival runs for 1 month, full the entire February. It's the longest running kind of Black History and Black Futures Month celebration of its kind in Canada. So we're going to have multiple programming all month long, different weekends and different weekdays. And funny that you mentioned, we also have KUUMBA 365. And KUUMBA 365 is essentially like Harbourfront Center's approach to critique the question and the idea that Black History Month is just in February. And so, what does that mean for the rest of the year? Us essentially saying we understand that Black arts, Black voices, Black creative endeavors should definitely be engaged with, put on display, and just interacted with all year long. And so, KUUMBA 365 is our way of doing that.
Thank you for mentioning that because I think that is really critical for folks to understand that yes, there may be dedicated months to specific groups and causes, but the idea of art is throughout the year and any time of the day.
Exactly, exactly.
Anything else you want to highlight about the festival, Arnola, or something that I might have overlooked, or you know?
Yes. So the two things that I think I didn't come up in everything we were saying is, so the tagline for the festival this year is "Raise the Voice," and we this is inspired by the popular global urban phrase "Raise the Roof," which is, to represent having a good time, celebration, partying, and just, being in the midst of community and just celebrating. And essentially, that's the spirit we're trying to embody with KUUMBA. Forward thinking, progressive, of course, like inclusive and wholesome of all historical narratives and the effects, of course, and how we got to where we are today. But definitely, like a focal point is celebrating the journey. And the other thing I wanted to highlight is KUUMBA is generously supported by TV Ready Commitment.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Those are some really interesting tidbits in terms of, where that comes from. And Raise the Roof should resonate with a lot of people of different ages.
Thank you so, so much, Heidi, for having me.
Of
You're such a
course.
good interviewer. I feel I got some first-time questions here, so thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear. Again, it's out of curiosity because I use this platform to make sure that different folks kind of have access to the arts, and the idea, like I mentioned, is that to access art any day in any form. So I'm hoping that people will join me in strolling around Harbourfront throughout,
Yes,
and hopefully
yes.
we'll bump into you somewhere and chat.
You absolutely will. Yeah. Are you gonna be here this weekend?
I'm gonna try and see if I can make it on maybe the Saturday. I think might be a good day to go and kind of spend the day out.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you'll see there'll be lots to see, just things
Lot.
everywhere. Yes, films, breaking competition, just everywhere. And Why Black Women Whisper will also be rehearsing. Why Black Women Whisper is our play in production. It's a poetic exploration of a play in production. It's created by Anne Marie Woods, also another fantastic piece.
Mm. Yes, I saw the name as well listed, so I'll be sure to highlight a few things as well. So people who either watch this or listen to this, there's going to be a bit of a summary on my website, so they can kind of go there and look up what else is happening. And of course, all of the details are available at harbourfrontcenter.com. Just look for KUUMBA in the listings. Arinola, it's such a pleasure to speak with you, and hopefully
Thank you so much.
we'll enjoy some art together on the weekend.
Yes, we will. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Heidi.